Well, I have a journey I wish to share with you, and this is going to be a prelude to that journey. That journey that I went on is definitely going to be its own story, and I'm still unpacking what that was and how I'm going to tell it. But I figure I should start the story with what has come before that. Now, I went on a journey. I was no longer on Earth. I don't know how to put it in any words other than that. But probably something you could relate to is I took magic mushrooms. Now, this isn't the first time I've taken magic mushrooms. However, this is the first time I went that far with it. So let's go back a little bit, because I don't view magic mushrooms as like a recreational drug. I've never been interested in a lot of those drugs. To be real frank, weed and alcohol, I'm good. The magic mushrooms even took a little bit of warming up. I honestly didn't know what they were. I kind of thought they were just like a rec drug or something. You hallucinate and I don't know. But that's not what it is. You see, here, like, ayahuasca. I have been studying that or aware of that or been curious and been wanting to do that for probably well over 10 years now. However, as the traditional story goes, you gotta go to the Amazon jungle and you gotta, it's a crazy journey, to be frank. I think it'd be awesome in its own way, but to go halfway around the world, and obviously that's gonna take some resources, and obviously that's not something that was practical. Now, I have heard that ayahuasca was available sort of locally through some circles, through some shamans, but I never had any contact with them. And when I was hearing about those as a possibility in the background, I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to really seek that out at the time. Although I've always been curious about the therapy behind the medicine, because that's all I hear. That's all I've ever heard about it. It's every story that I've heard, the good and the bad. There is no real bad. I mean, people have some bad experiences, but they later appreciate that they've had those experiences. And very, 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 very rarely somebody has a bad enough experience where they, that was it, and they never do it again. And I think that's more of a setting concern, and they didn't respect the medicine, they didn't do it right, and that was the problem there. So anyway, let's back it up even a little bit before that. The first time that I've ever taken magic mushrooms, I was probably 16. I was with some friends. Long story short, we didn't consume enough of them because they were quite literally just like mushrooms, and they weren't good. Actually, we went to McDonald's and we put them into cheap cheeseburgers, but I don't think we took enough. I think we took more so on the microdosing side of things. And so, didn't get an effect, we never readdressed that. I think we tried it twice, to be frank, but same idea, same source, same bag. We just, I don't know, gave up on the idea, I guess. So anyway, that was, when I was like 16, and, I'm now, 37? So that's like 20 years ago. So, I had a friend of mine who was exploring the idea of doing the microdosing side of it. And essentially what that means is you're taking small enough quantities of it to get the, how do I put it in words? You do not get high. You do not go anywhere. In fact, you are as normal, but the medicine behind it is still working something in the background. And in that process, I think is really good. If I were just to kind of like illustrate my thoughts on it for my application, or why I went with a heavier dose. and why I'm not necessarily personally interested in the microdosing is I feel like the microdosing is a very, very good therapy that you have to certainly parallel with some other actions and therapies. By itself, it could certainly do some good for sure. But it's not something you want to do forever and ever, right? Like you do it as a regime for a month or two or whatever, and you should be done with it by then. So in that month or two, you should be doing things that you're looking to get out of it as well. Kind of utilize that. But anyway, that's not necessarily the best explanation on microdosing, but that's just sort of where I was sort of thinking where that wasn't really what I needed. I needed something a little bit stronger, a little bit more of a now. Let's do this. Let's like. I'm ready to figure what it is that might be missing. See, the moral of the story, and I don't want to get into this too much, but the last 10 years, if I were to sum it all up, everything that I've ever done and tried has effectively just failed. It didn't work. Like, no matter what I try, no matter how much work, no matter what, everything has failed for me for 10 years. And I, for the life of me, cannot figure it out. It's almost like, if I were to put it in more simple terms, it's like I feel like I'm jinxed. Like I got some karma I got to pay for or something. I don't know. I mean, I was a little bit of a shithead when I was a kid, but I don't really believe in karma. But yeah, everything I touched turned to shit. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why it's back to back to back to back to back to back. And it was relentlessly back to back to back to back to back. Like even coming out to Kelowna, Kelowna, again, this is like a whole nother story, but coming out to Kelowna was to be a fresh start. And even though I was distracted with a lot of the day-to-day stuff and just kind of going along with it, when I look back over the last 6 years, I've got nothing to show for it, I've got a couple of friends, and I live in a situation that has been easily, this is like the worst that I've lived in right now as I live, is like the worst I've lived in my adulthood. Coming to Kelowna has been a major step backwards in terms of the amount of relationships that I have, the sort of wealth, if you want to call it wealth, my income, and I don't know, like it's just been a big, massive backwards step, and it's like I feel like I've lost so much time. I'm 37 years old. Like, how much more time do I have to get shit figured out? I still want a family. I still want, a house and whatever else, but I'm so far from that. I was closer to that when I was like 19 or something like that. I mean, maybe not quite 19, but in my early 20s, when everything was potential and everything could possibly happen, and, the windows were open, the doors were open, everywhere I went, there were doors open. So anyway, there's details, there's more to that, but let's get into, okay, so was it even on my birthday? Might have been on my birthday, I don't know. On my birthday, a friend of mine, he's like, hey, you know what? Try this. And in his mind's eye, I believe he was thinking like, he was going to trip sit on like a 2 gram kind of a dose, which would be like a recreational dose, kind of take you places, and you're not gone, but you're, Now, in my opinion, I didn't want to take too strong of a dose too soon, and we kind of settled with actually the original plan of 1/2 of a gram, which is essentially what they would consider like the top end of a microdose, like a heavy microdose, like the top end of before you start to feel any effects. So we went to the lake, and we, we're planning on being there for the day if need be, like we had our drinks and whatnot, like water and stuff. and it was a beautiful day, 30 plus degrees. It was a swimming day. It was great. But after about an hour or two or whatever, nothing was kicking in, and my friend decided, all right, that's enough. We don't need to be here any longer. We don't need to be here. I love the lake. I wanted to be there. Actually, I ended up going back to the lake, went home. I actually went to one of the cannabis stores, and I went to go ask them about whether or not they know where I could get magic mushrooms. Because I really was now at this point, like, I need to try this. I need to do this. This is now. It has to be now. It's now. I need it. And, they said, unfortunately, it's not something they sell or they know anybody that has it. I was already aware because I was already looking online and doing research that I could buy it online. So anyway, that day I ended up just getting like a can of, edible weed or edible, THC in a can or whatever. Because, I was happy. Like I was under a sort of like a bliss, if that's a word. Like it was like a nice floaty feel good, So yeah, I cranked one of those, went back home, had a couple of beer, and then went straight to the lake, and then literally spent probably a few hours in the lake, well into past the sunset. We started early. It was like an AM thing. I think I was back in the lake by like 4 o'clock or something, and didn't get out till like 9 or something. I don't know. I don't remember. That was a while ago. It was good though. I enjoyed the day. To me, that was like my birthday celebration, if you will. So anyway, so that definitely got my curiosity. Went online, acquired some medicine, and the plan was to go back to the lake. To me, the lake is my most sacred space. It's where I feel safe. It's where I feel welcomed. It's a lot of things that means a lot to me. However, but I still have no real experience with mushrooms, right? So I decided to take 1.5 grams. It was like a recreational dose, and I figured I didn't need to be babysat. I can just go swimming all day. That was kind of the plan, go swimming all day and just see what happens. Well, after about an hour or so in the lake, I was starting to feel a little bit of a chill. And I think that was mostly because I'm just not eating as much as I used to, and I didn't really prepare to eat to stay in the lake all day. But, I had a plan. If I ever needed to get out of the lake, there's a little park. I just go chill in the park. So anyway, as it was kicking in, I was in the lake. I was getting like some slight little warpage of things, and like I can tell something was kicking in, and it was kind of neat. I was kind of liking it, but I was again kind of concerned with the chill, and that was what was concerning me. And so anyway, I go into this little park area, and I figured I was gonna just go find a spot and hang out, just watch the nature. But it was a really small park. Now initially when I went in, there was only one person in there, and yeah, he was in like one part, and really there was just nowhere else to go. I ended up really just kind of going back and forth, and I remember kind of actually probably one of the more enjoyable moments of that day actually was noticing how like the trail, it's like a wooden trail, like a deck built trail, and it's not wide enough for two people to walk side by side. It's just tight enough where you're, stagger behind. Enough for people to, walk by each other. But anyway, I felt like it was a little bit wider. Like my space was a little bit smaller, and I noticed that. It's like, weird, this is weird. So it's almost like, it's like trail's bigger. Again, not a massive trip or anything, but it was something that, was different. But anyway, in one of the spots that I could have went, and this is before COVID. Before COVID, it was beautiful. It was like, yeah, you get the odd homeless person sleeping in there, and the odd little bit of graffiti, but it's kind of taking a shit. There's graffiti everywhere, and the spot had like death written all over it, and there's all sorts of like things that was just it was a buzzkill. And I didn't want to be there. And then there's another spot, and the sun, I didn't, like, it was like 30 degrees or whatever. I didn't have water with me, and for whatever reason, that sun, even though it didn't feel super hot, it was super draining. I didn't want to be in the sun like that. So I was probably in there for, I don't know, probably a half hour or so, probably really not that long. And then I decided that I wanted to leave. And I left. And when I went to my bike, I saw for the first time what I think I see other people seeing when they see it. Now, my bike is a piece of shit. It needs some work. It's a little bit, how do you put it? Like, it's a little bit, needs some maintenance. But even with the maintenance, whatever, the image that it held, like what I saw in it and what I saw myself was I saw a junkie. I don't consider myself a junkie yet, just because I'm doing some medicine and, you know, I smoked a little bit of weed here and there and, you know, the odd drink. Like, I'm not a heavy anything. But when I was in the trail, you know, because I was like looking for like, oh, what if I can go like into over there and just chill? No, that's where, you know, like junkies do that, man. They find like nooks and bushes, and that was another thing I was just not comfortable with doing. So anyway, so I get on my bike and I was telling myself, you know, I'm just gonna go for a bike ride and just see what that's all about. But by this point, and what I'm really getting at is, I was not in a good mood. I felt like a homeless person. You know, like I felt like a junkie. I felt like I'm poor. I have nothing. This is what I got. And not only that, this is what the world sees of me. You know, when I show up with my bike and it's a piece of crap, it is a piece of crap, and people see that, you know. It's like, who am I? You know, am I a junkie with a camera? Pretty much. I can see how they can see that. It's not something that I think I relate to with my past in terms of how I conduct myself. You know, I've let my hair go in the last, you know, I am a borderline, like I'm a scruff. I'm in rough shape. So the trip did not feel good at all. And you know what also sucked too is I was thinking, oh, I'll go for a bike ride and just cruise around, but I also went, no, I got like bald tires, one brake, I got cables that are broken. Like, I can't. This is still my grocery getter. I can't risk it. I have to. And I didn't want to be on it. I just didn't feel good being on it. So anyway, I meandered home, and I did my best as I meandered home to just kind of appreciate the bike ride as I could, you know, because I'm still, you know, kind of on a magic high here, and it was kind of neat. It's not something I would say that I'd want to do again or need to do again, but it was neat. So the plan was to go home, drop off the bike, hydrate. I wasn't hungry, but I was feeling really drained, but I wasn't hungry. I wasn't going to eat. So I did that because when I went home, like, man, every room in my house I couldn't look at. I was just like, man, this house is a prison. Been locked up in here for like 2.5 years, and I feel stuck in it. It's shit. It's garbage. I don't like it. I hate it. Like, I'm living in a, like, what's next, you know? So anyway, I left, and I didn't get very far, really. Like, maybe 5-10 minutes down the road, if that even. And again, the heat, the sun, it wasn't comfortable. And because I wasn't eating, I wasn't hungry, but I felt like I was drained, and all I was going to do is push myself. And the goal was to really just come to Mudson Pond and just, you know, just come here and see what happens. So yeah, I was probably out for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever it was, and before you know it, I was back home, and I just wanted to cry. And I couldn't, because upstairs was home, and it's just, and I didn't feel like doing anything. There was nothing I wanted to do. Like, I didn't want to be on my computer for anything, because that's just, man, that's all I do. So I think I just laid in my bed and just felt like shit. And I just sat, or not sat, but I just laid there and I thought of all my problems. And I was thinking, man, this medicine isn't really good. Why would I want to do this? This isn't good. This isn't fun. And I was kind of feeling, again, like I was under the weather. I was just not feeling good. And yeah, and just being depressed and whatever else, everything else is just like, wow, wasn't good. So anyway, a couple weeks or so goes by, and after almost a couple weeks or whatever it was, I was starting to feel better. I was, like I'm still doing the research on the medicine, and because I was like questioning, like, do I even want to do it? And it's like, no, nothing has changed. The principle, the idea, the therapy, everything that everybody said about it is still applicable. I just have to try again. And my friend was just saying, like, you know what? You just gotta like do it at home, do it in your bed, don't go anywhere. And he was right. That was a stupid idea to think about going to the lake. That was not something you can do. And so anyway, yeah, I basically treated the day kind of like as if I was planning on going for a hike. So the day prior to, I made sure I ate really well, slept really well, and basically planned it out as well as I can. Although I did make one little mistake with it, but oh yeah, and well, the one mistake that I made was I decided to have a whole lot of tea just before I was going. So while I was going through this process, I actually had to go to the bathroom probably like 4 or 5 times, and that was not fun. But I didn't hate it at all. It was a really weird experience going to the bathroom in this. Well, but anyway, that's where I want to leave it, because this next part of the journey is something completely, I don't even know how to put it in words. Like I think I'm gonna have to do it like how other people have said it, and just sort of tell a story and just kind of let it be. Because no matter what I say and how I say it, it's still only like a part of it. There's more, and it's just I don't know how to put that. All I want to do with this is just basically share with you kind of where I'm coming from with this. So that way you can understand why I'm going for it, and why I did it. So other than that, without any further ado, if you're still here and with me, yeah, I mean, look forward to that one. I should have that one coming out soon, but just give me time. I'm still unpacking a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I'm like thinking, and it's quite a different. It's a whole nother animal. It's a whole nother everything. But anyway, have a good one. And we'll see you around. Take care. Probably in the dark here. I don't even know what to see.